Hi folks, I'm having my morning tea. This is Celestial Seasonings, I think. Apple cinnamon. It's a favorite of mine. I have it year-round, but especially in the fall. I have my coffee in the first thing, then I have breakfast, and then I have my morning tea. I want to talk to you today a little bit about staying warm in the back of a truck, because it gets pretty cold. I've got an indoor-outdoor thermometer over there, and if I'm just in here and I've got everything closed up and I don't have any heat source going, that thermometer, indoors and outdoors, there's usually not a whole lot of difference. It's in the 40s right now. I've got everything opened up, so it doesn't. I can't give you an example of the degree difference, but it's not very much. Maybe 5 degrees. It'll be 5 degrees warmer in here with my body heat than outside. So you have to stay warm when it gets cold out. And there are different ways of doing it. And one way that I want to discourage, I have something here I don't recommend for staying warm at night. These are little Zippo hand warmers. This one's black. You can get all different colors. And then this one here is chrome, or silver, but it's not silver. It doesn't feel like silver. It feels more like chrome, but I don't know. Chrome's a nasty thing, so I don't know what they do with it anymore. Anyway, this little one I think is a 6-hour, and the big one's a 12-hour. I have 2 of these, and I have 2 of these. And they work wonderfully. I highly recommend them. They're hand warmers. My hands don't really get cold, but my fingers do. I have Raynaud's syndrome. Raynaud's syndrome, I've got a couple fingers on each hand that turn white and go numb. And I don't have to be very cold at all. If it drops down to like 68 degrees, sometimes that's enough to trigger it. And they're like ice. My fingers are just like ice. And they don't want to get warm on their own. One of these little things right here, they'll keep your fingers warm enough that Raynaud's doesn't kick in, at least for me. Or they will help me recover from Raynaud's. Because usually I have to run my hands under warm water or take some sort of significant action to get my fingers to warm back up again. Same thing on toes. I've got a couple of toes that do the same thing. The little one, I think, is more convenient. It's 6 hours, I believe. And the big one is 12 hours. And they run on cigarette lighter fluid. Marvelous little inventions. I thought one time to try using them to help me stay warm in the back of my truck. So I filled them up. This 12 hours, that's plenty of time. This one's 6 hours. That'll cover most of the night. And I put them in my pockets. Put the big ones, I think I put the big ones down in my pants pockets and the little ones in my shirt pockets. Don't do that. They are very good for what they were designed for. But you don't want to use them to try to keep yourself warm, keep your body warm. In an emergency, do what you need to do. But with these little things, that cigarette lighter fluid in there is fumey. So there's a smell associated with this, which it's not terribly unpleasant, but in the confines of the back of a truck and being in here all night, you really don't want to smell it. But like I said, in an emergency situation, do what you need to do. But the thing that I find most disturbing about using these is if you have them in prolonged contact with your skin, you can kind of get a chemical burn, and that's something you want to avoid. Don't do that. They work great for keeping your fingers warm. I highly recommend them. But don't try to stay warm in the back of your truck. There's a guy out there who's got a wood stove. I'm sure a couple of you do. I think that's pretty cool. That's further than I want to go with this. As far as I don't really want to buy a wood stove and have that back here in the back of my truck. No. I've got the little buddy heater. I've got two of them. One of them is the kind that is the little tank flips out from the side. I'm sure Mr. Buddy, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. That works very well. And supposedly they're safe. Leave a window open. Okay. I'm not going to sleep with one in here while it's running. I also have one of those other ones. It's the same manufacturer, but it sits on a round plastic stand. You put the tank down in it. Those things, in my opinion, don't go there. They fall over. I personally think they're dangerous. But I'm a layman. I don't know anything. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a scientific tester, so I'm sure they could sue me if I said that they really are a danger, because I'm not professional enough to know that. But I'm never going to use mine again, I'll tell you that. Propane. Propane can keep you warm, and it works okay, but you got to get up. You don't want to leave it running all night, or I don't. If you're going to use propane, you're going to be getting up every time you get cold to turn it on for a little while, let your space warm up again. And then shut it off. Butane, they've got these little things that look like a tin can with holes cut in it that you can put on the top of a butane burner. Can't say I've ever tried one of those. But again, I wouldn't want to leave anything burning inside here in my truck while I'm sleeping. It's okay if you're trying to warm up after being cold, but don't leave it burning. That's my opinion. I have enough blankets and such in here that I can survive the night without being too uncomfortable, without any heat at all. I think that's important, because systems fail. So your final system is your body itself, and it will keep itself warm if it's well enough insulated. And that's really probably going to be one of the more reliable systems you can have. There's another option that I am working towards. And I have a blanket on my lap. It's not a very big blanket, but it's an electric blanket. And in another video I show you that I have solar. I have 200 watts of solar right here. And I have a 100 amp hour lithium battery, and it's the one that's the 04 or something like that. It's supposed to be the safest of all of them. And I've got a charge controller, and I've got a distribution box over here so I can have switches to turn things on and off. I don't have a switch to turn my electric blanket off, but I can easily just unplug it. When I installed the solar, which that was very recently, just a few days ago, I asked the battery manufacturer, Enduro Baja something or another. I forget the name of it. But anyway, I asked how I would know when to turn it off because it was getting too low, and how much to charge it and that sort of thing. And the guy that responded to me said, realistically, you need a battery monitor if you're going to really pay attention to that sort of thing. And it sounds like it's kind of important to know at least some of this. One of the things I wanted to know was how far down my battery is. And more importantly, at least at this point, how long will my battery last if I do such and such? And I just installed that and got it correct. I first had the negative leads. It's got 2 negative leads and 1 little bitty positive lead. And it's a shunt kind of thing. And I had the negative backwards, so it wasn't working right. I got that straightened out. Who knew that you could have 2 negatives and be backwards with them? But apparently it's so. Anyway, they said do this battery monitor, and he offered 2. One is, I recognize the name instantly, and it's the one that's got Bluetooth. I don't care about Bluetooth. I don't need the Bluetooth. I don't really want the Bluetooth because I don't want to add something else to my phone and have to go to my phone for yet something else. This is the cheaper. That one's about $200 and some odd dollars. Victor something or another. I don't know the name of it. The one I've got right now is a Renault G, and it was $76, $77. And what it's telling me right now is that I just plugged this blanket in a few minutes ago, but I can run it for 22.5 hours. There's no way I'm going to keep this blanket running for 22.5 hours, or at least not under normal circumstances. I'm not going to be in bed for much over, what, 10, 12 hours? And the reason I say 10, 12 hours instead of 8 hours or 6 hours, because I don't normally sleep more than 6 to 8 hours. But maybe the sun goes down and I get cold and I crawl in the back of my truck and it's only 5:30 and I don't get up until 6 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, there's that. So I could run it for quite some time. Now, this 22 hours of runtime, it just dropped down to 19 hours, 18 hours. My refrigerator's running. If I turn the refrigerator off, I could be back up around 20 hours again. Anyway, running the electric blanket and the refrigerator, it's kind of slow to respond. You kind of got to wait on it. It looks pretty stable right now. It's still dropping slowly, but I'm over 12 hours. It says 13.5 hours right now, and the refrigerator will turn off in a minute, and so it'll go back up again. So I think I can run at least 12 hours with an electric blanket and the refrigerator, but you shouldn't need to use both of them. I'm just in testing mode right now. I'm going to turn the refrigerator off. It's over there, but my switch is over here. There, I turned it off. And it had stabilized at 15 hours, or 13 hours and 25 minutes. But now it's going back up again. It's over 20 hours that it'll run this electric blanket. And it says my electric blanket is about 57 watts of power that I'm pulling. So I don't know if the math adds up on this or not, but I'm liking this alternative. I use an electric blanket at home because then I can keep my house pretty chilly. I haven't started a wood fire yet, and it's the 2nd of November. Of course, I do have the diesel heater hooked to the back of the house, or to the front of the house. And that's another thing you can heat one of these things with, is a diesel heater. But I have a diesel heater. That's more heat than I need back here. I really don't need that much heat. It feels nice if I want to leave things open and work back here. And it's good for that. But to hook it up and go to sleep back here, I think I would roast. Because to close everything up and have that diesel heater blowing warm air in here, those things work exceptionally well. I don't need that much heat. So anyway, those are my thoughts on staying warm. I'm sure there are several other ways of doing it, but an electric blanket, as far as I can tell, is a viable way of doing this. And it gives me just a nice amount of heat. And this electric blanket, it's a DC 12 volt. And I have not torn the tag off. Made in China. 100% polar fleece. Comes out of Pennsylvania, but it says it's made in China. And maybe it's one of those Road Pro things. I don't know. I've had it for about a year, and it's been used many times. Not in this setup, but up in the front of my truck. You don't want to use one of these things on your starter battery, because they will run a battery down. It'll take a while, but it will. And I've had this on that little Jackery 300, and it'll only run about 4 to 6 hours with that. But if you're traveling and you want a nice warm lap blanket, I don't have electric seats. It works well. My wife uses it frequently, anytime it's cool weather and she gets in the truck to go someplace with me, she uses this electric blanket. Now, she doesn't get in the back of the truck. She doesn't travel with me like that. But if we're going to go shopping or something along that line, she'll sit in the passenger seat and she'll use this blanket. So the blanket's been well tested. I'm confident that it works well. And like I said, if any of this system fails, I do have enough warm blankets in here to make it through most evenings. Now, I'm in Virginia, so it's not going to get that terribly cold here most of the time. Normally, whenever I'm out and about, I'm not going to be out much below 20 degrees. I don't need to be out when it's that cold or colder. But anyway, that's an update on how I'm planning to stay warm this year. It's the latest in my electrical system upgrade.